Calling the meeting of the Board of Appeals to open on June 11th, and it is now 7 p.m. We will stand and do the Pledge of Allegiance first, and then we'll get on to business. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Welcome to the Board of Appeals meeting, and thank you for signing in. We did just receive an email from our town attorneys that we did not actually get in our email this afternoon. Najila just received it this afternoon, and apparently it did not come through in an email that was sent to us. So what I'd like to do is just give each one of us time to briefly read through this before we start the rest of the official meeting. Is it possible for you to print a copy for Jack? Ah, perfect. Thank you, Jack. So we'll just take some time to just read through this quickly. And then would you rather summarize first? Okay, let's take a minute and just read through. I agree that it would have been better if we would have received this ahead of time, but my understanding is that neither one of the attorneys was able to be here in person, so that this would take the place of any understanding that they would add to the discussion. So I understand, because if they had been here, they would have said these things to us. So, but that's why we took the time to be able to read it ahead of time. So anyway, and Najila was not aware of that circumstance before the meeting, or much before the meeting, just today. So anyway, thank you for getting these, having them available for us.
That was not a statement of blame.
All right. So what we'd like to do now is review. I assume that both gentlemen have had a chance to review the minutes from our March 19th meeting that were in the packet. Do you have any questions?
No questions, Tony.
All right. Did you have any questions, Scott? All right. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes as standing from March 19th?
Motion to approve.
All right. Motion made by Wayne Slaughter. Do I hear a second? Second by Scott Frager. Thank you very much. Any discussion? Nope. No discussion. All in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. All right. Swearing in of witnesses, all witnesses, including attorneys, if you gentlemen could please stand. All right, raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the response given and statements made by you in these proceedings will be the whole truth and nothing but the truth? If so, state I do. I do.
I do.
Thank you. All right, there being no old business that I'm aware of. Is there any old business that you're aware of? Najila? All right. The new business concerns 103 Irish Town Road, which is Emmett Ridge 2. There is a variance request by DBR Group and represented by Tucker Tobin and Nikita. I'm not sure whether both of you are going to be speaking, but your name, Tucker, is on the application. And that is to create variances, to allow variances, grant variances for 48 homes to be built in Emmett Ridge 2. The case has a certain number of advantages to the town. And Najilia, if you could please present the case by the staff.
Sure. So the applicant, Mr. Tobin of DRB Group, is requesting a variance to section 17.32.070 titled Required Lot Area, Lot Width, and Yards in Residential Districts in the Town Code. So the variance is to be applied to the property at 103 Irish Town Road, which is in the R2 Medium Density District. And the request is to reduce the lot size and setback requirements by 25% to accommodate 48 single-family residential units. So basically, they would like the minimum lot area to be reduced from 8,000 square feet to 6,000 square feet. And then same reduction applies to the minimum lot width from 70 feet to 52.5. Front yard depth from 35 to 26.5 feet, side yard depth from 10 feet to 7.5 feet, and rear yard depth to be reduced from 30 feet to 22.5 feet. So a little bit more background on this case. The subdivision Emmett Ridge, it was originally approved in mid-1990s before the current lot size and setback requirements were implemented. So these requirements didn't apply to many of these lots completed in the earlier phase. So if the variance is granted, it will apply to the intended 48 lots in the subdivision, lot 1 to 12 and 18 to 65. And then the town code allows the Board of Appeals to grant variances, which is a relief from the strict application of one or more requirements of the zoning ordinance. Based on the conditions described in section 17.12.050, the board must specifically find that these conditions or situations exist and are true before a variance is approved. So I'll go over the conclusions made by staff based on the information provided in the application. And I also do want to point out that on the exhibit that shows on the plat showing all the different lots, the title should be 1 to 12 and 18 to 65. So
Right.
just wanted
Thank
to.
you. That correction was noted earlier this afternoon, so thank you for that.
So there are challenging topographic conditions that limit the availability of land, such as FEMA floodplains, established easements, and an underdeveloped stormwater management facility. So the condition of the land would have to pose a significant hardship for this project. I mean, it does do that. So also based on the sizes of the lots in previous phases, granting this variance won't impact the property rights or the ability to use property in a manner that is similar to other properties in R2 district. Staff also finds that granting this variance will not hinder the objectives of the zoning ordinance or the public interest. The DRB group has shown great interest in finishing up a project that has been at a standstill for decades. They've submitted a sketch plat for review, and they would need this variance to move forward with making a formal submittal of plans to the town. The DRB group intends to apply the principles of cluster development, a planning strategy that involves building smaller lot sizes, which helps reduce the amount of impervious surfaces and has numerous benefits. The cluster development principle does also align with the goals of the town's 2015 comprehensive plan. So I can kind of summarize the attorney's opinion. That's good.
Yes, please.
Okay, so since they can't be here tonight, I'll just summarize their memo. The town attorney asserted that the property owners have authorized DRB Group to submit the application. And she mentioned the legal standards for granting a variance. So she mentions the sections in the town code that allows the Board of Appeals to grant a variance to alleviate an unnecessary hardship or practical difficulty while ensuring the purposes of zoning codes, making sure that those are maintained. The board may impose conditions and require guarantees that would favor public interests. And there's section B must prove that difficulties faced are not self-inflicted, and the facts in the application support granting the variance under the practical difficulties standard for area variances, area density, and setback. She cited some relevant case law, the first one being Montgomery versus Rotwein in 2006 to distinguish between land use and area variances, and applied practical difficulties standard to area variances. Then she mentioned Anders versus Board of Appeals of the town of Chesapeake Beach in 1974, which considered setback and practical difficulties in area variances. And then she also mentioned McLean versus Soley from 1973 that stressed that the variances should align with the zoning regulations, spirit and intent, providing relief without substantial public harm. So the town attorney's findings for the variance, she wrote that the property is burdened by easements and a stream buffer, floodplains, and open space requirements that restrict its development. And she mentions that the variance will allow the property to be developed similarly to other R2 zone, others in R2 zone, accommodating the original design intent in the medium density residential district. And she also mentioned that the variance promotes environmental preservation, efficient land use, traffic circulation, and the completion of a long-standing unfinished project. And it also supports affordable housing units and aligns with the R2 zoning intentions. And she mentioned that this case is not, it is unique and not likely to be a common occurrence, and the property in question has unique impediments not present in other areas of the R2 zoning district. And she asserts that based on the above findings and expected testimony, it can be concluded that the variance requirements are met beyond a reasonable doubt. So I'll just end my presentation with the staff recommended motion, which is to approve the request for variance to section 17.32.070.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Now, Najila, my question would be, I imagine that this should be entered as part of the exhibit and added to the package. So, correct? So we don't need a motion to do that. We can just say that this was additional information that was added. Okay. So let's please officially do that. All right. Yes.
Najila, are you gonna include the additional plats and whatnot that you discovered or that you found in the packet?
Yeah, I could do that. That's totally fine. Yeah.
Okay, great. And
Include the additional. Yeah, there
first
was
of
some
all,
additional documents.
there's some additional documents that she sent in the email that did come through. So first of all, I'd like to say, I have questions about what they're showing us on these. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Would you be, did you have any questions about what their
Yeah.
meaning is or what they're showing us? Are they showing us something different than what we see on this big plat?
Yeah, because those are, so I sent you 4 plats and only one of them has ever been recorded, which is what you see on the screen right there. Those built lots,
Those are the 17 lots that
Yeah.
exist now.
right?
Okay,
And what you see outside of that, the plats were for these that bigger section, but they were never recorded and they're void. So I just wanted to give you some background information.
That's
Yeah.
okay, okay, good. Thank you. Did you get a chance to look at these? I printed them out. I'm not sure that I can read them. But so they were unrecorded but approved by the town back in 1994. So it's showing that this was the original smaller lot size that was approved by the town.
Back in the day, yes.
Okay. Okay, good. Thank you. And I do believe they should be added too.
It's an 8,000, not 6,000. Do I have that incorrect?
If
The original lot size.
I can see it. Where did you see that
I thought the
situated?
original lot size was bigger.
The required lot size is 8,000.
Right.
Right, but the original lot size that they used, my understanding is that the 17 homes that are already built were on smaller lots than the requirement now. That's my understanding. Is that correct?
So not all of them are smaller than the required. Some of these just vary in sizes. It's just not, they're not limited to
Standard.
8,000. Yeah.
Right, okay.
But the proposed variance is to reduce it by 25%, all right, to 6,000,
Correct,
Correct.
correct?
correct.
So that'll be uniform.
They'll still have different lot sizes. It's just the lease
Right.
would be,
But the variance
right.
proposed is
Yeah.
to be uniform. Okay, it's fine.
Is it clear to the other members of the board whether or not?
Can you put your microphone on, please? Thanks.
Whether or not the 4-sided polygons represent space that a house will fit in, but not all the houses are going to be identical.
Mhm.
Is that a accurate statement?
Yes, we have a variety of floor plans that will accommodate different lots, depending on.
And
Sorry.
that's okay. What we need you to do is to put your microphone on, introduce yourself, give your address as well, and then you can answer questions from the board.
Hi.
And thank you.
Yep.
Am
Hi.
I jumping the gun?
I just want to make sure that we do this correctly so that the people, let me ask first, Jess, do we have anybody on the, signed up for the Zoom meeting?
There's 3 people. Who's part of the
Yes.
group. I don't know, and they're a Nicholas.
They're both with us.
Yes, they're
It
both
should be,
with us, yes.
Nick DeCampo and Keith Tennell.
I don't know, there's just someone that says I have.
Okay, that's probably Keith then.
Okay, so then they're all part of that.
Okay, so they're all for them. Let me ask one more question. Najila, did we get any public comment on this case?
None.
Okay, okay,
Okay.
thank you. Now, let me ask one more thing.
Sure.
Typically, you guys would give a formal presentation. And then we could ask questions as you were giving your formal presentation, but would you like to begin that before you answer that
Can we do
question?
a formal presentation first?
We put together a PowerPoint. It was kind of last minute. We honestly weren't really sure what to expect for this. I mean, the package that was sent to our engineer was kind of what you guys have been reviewing, and we were anticipating questions based off of that. But we also wanted to put something together that would show what we do as DRB homes.
Okay.
Does help
That,
answer it?
do you think, I think that might answer questions or possibly even lead to more. So I think it would be beneficial to let you guys go first.
Before you actually start, I've got a bias that I'd like to share with you. And the reason is that unless there's objective evidence that the bias, which was created by a very similar situation here in Emmitsburg not too long ago, if that's not clearly resolved, then I'm going to have the same concern. So let me tell you what the bias is, okay? The parking plan for this community looks like it's going to be not exactly black and white. I can't tell if there are driveways. I can't tell if the parking's going to be in the street. And if you were to ask, why do I care? Because 4 years ago, I bought a home in Emmitsburg that was also part of a community that was started in 2005 and finished in the last couple years. And there were a lot of issues that came up. And at the top of the list is there were 19 homes built on Irishtown Road, okay? After people bought the house is when they were educated clearly on the fact that you can't park on Irishtown Road. You can't park on Brookfield. There's no parking in front of their own house because there's a bike path there and there wasn't enough room for parking, okay? And so every time somebody that lives in one of those 19 houses, because a parking plan wasn't made clear, apparently when the approval to build was granted, they're living with these problems now. And every time one of these homes has a party, all of the guests park throughout the neighborhood in Brookfield, which, you know, we're blessed from a standpoint that there is ample other parking. The road looks like it's going to be decently wide, and I'm comparing that to the roads in Brookfield. But there is there's nothing here that makes me feel good that the same thing isn't going to happen again, because not that anybody did something intentionally, but because the right questions weren't asked soon enough.
And our responsibility here is to look at the variance question, not to address the parking situation. So do you feel like you might need to recuse yourself from this matter, or do you feel you can look at the situation with the lot sizes and make an adequate determination on that without bringing in the parking issues?
So you're saying that the parking has no bearing on whether or not approval of the variance allows the land to be used effectively. There are a lot of declarative statements made in this document that say others have already decided everything is good.
I
So
I think it's fair to ask those kind of questions, but the issue that we're being asked to decide tonight is whether we can grant a variance to the code on the lot size itself and the lot depth. We're not being asked about parking. So I don't think that that's part of our charge tonight. So I'm just saying, do you feel like you can adequately judge this case based on its merits on the lot size?
I think I could, especially if you wrote down exactly what it is I'm assuming that I don't need to consider. So in other words, ignore the parking. It's somebody else's problem.
My understanding, and I could be wrong, but that's why I'd like them to give their presentation. My understanding was that the intent was that there would be long enough driveways for that. I believe I read that in
We
the case.
anticipate 2-car garages.
And again, I'm sorry, but just we need to be speaking into the microphone to
Understood.
record it. Thank you.
Yeah, so we anticipate 2-car garages with 2 parking spaces for the driveways. As far as Irishtown Road, there would not be parking in Irishtown Road. That legally couldn't work. So the loop of the community would serve as the street parking.
Good answer. My unqualified generalization is that the 19 houses that I'm referring to,
Mhm.
if the lots, each one was wider and a side load garage was a part of the houses, every home would have twice as much room to park. And so everyone there now, so what I think I'm assuming based on your statement is that each driveway will allow for 2 cars.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And
and-
each home has a garage
Yes,
for 2 parking spaces there. Okay.
that's our intention.
And people smarter than me make rules that you have to have so many parking places given, has that been looked at?
For this particular plan,
Yes, sir.
I believe when it was originally designed in the early 90s, yes. I mean, we're inheriting something that was designed a long time ago and trying to fulfill the need to build those houses in that community.
Understand.
Yeah.
Okay, but that's not
Has the
typical.
town looked at the parking situation, and can you say that given the number of houses that are going to be built and the assumption of how many cars per house, because that that is brought up in this document. Parking won't be a problem.
Oh, we didn't go out there and take measurements or anything like that, but I just wanted to point out, on the agenda, it says the applicant must present
Present the
before,
case.
before
Correct.
there's any discussion. So I just wanted to let you know that, so
That
that,
was where we were
Yeah.
trying to go.
yeah, okay. And after that, I can probably answer the question.
Okay, so pretend like I didn't say a word. My apologies.
We can move on with your presentation
Okay.
and then we'll be free to ask questions. So
Do you have
go right
control of the
ahead,
screen?
please.
Oh, you do? Yeah, so we can just go ahead and start clicking through it then. So you guys have met us both. I'm Tucker Tobin with DRB and this is Kita. I don't want to mess up your last name. So we work in land acquisition. We kind of wanted to give a overview of the product that we envision us building to finish this community. It's actually the same stuff that we're doing just down the road at Hamburger Hills in Thurmont. We have 22 lots left there to build. We built the first, it was either 36 or 38 lots over the past year and a half. So these are kind of the house types that we would be submitting, for approval as we would move forward with this job. Next one. So this is an elevation picture of the Crafton. It's 4 beds, 2 to 3 baths and a half bath. You can see the square footage and like we were talking about as far as the parking, 2-car garage with a 2-car driveway. Same thing here with the Carnegie. That just has a reverse plan with the garage on the other side. But as you can see, the look is pretty much the same as we move through all of these plans. The square footage is relative and they all have a 2-car garage with a 2-car driveway. Next would be the Edgewood. That just shows a different elevation, different color scheme, but that's kind of the idea that we're going for. And this is all 40-foot product from side to side. So that's the building kind of envelope of the house. And then we have the-
Mr. Tubin, I'd like to ask, so that lot size is, you said the side yard depth is what?
it should be 7.5 on what we're requesting for the setback.
I know that's what you're requesting. I'm asking what those are, what those measurements. Do you have that?
I don't have that with me, but we can get that to you.
Okay.
I don't want to misspeak and give a wrong amount of distance. And then, so yeah, we'll follow up with that tomorrow morning.
So you're not, well, hopefully we'd be making a decision tonight. You're not sure what the minimum lot area is.
Not
On
at
those.
those, no.
Can I piggyback a question on that? So if the house outer wall is here, the property line is 7.5 feet from that. The adjacent house is 7.5 feet in from that property line, right?
Correct,
Which basically means there's 15 feet between the houses.
correct.
How standard is that?
I think it depends on the community. It depends on the jurisdiction. I don't think I would use the word standard. We have some communities that we build in that the setbacks are, much larger than that, but the product is also much larger. We're
Right,
talking,
right.
close to 5,000 square foot houses. So
You
it,
wouldn't find that unusually narrow, would you?
no. No.
If I could interject
Yes.
as well.
I'm trying to
Please
sort of become.
speak into the microphone.
I'm
Thank
trying to
you.
become kind of sensitive to these dimensions, so if you would, please.
Yeah, I can just add some color to it. My name is Kita Sinhapanya. So a lot of communities that you're seeing these days are designed to have maximum density, but also smaller yards, because the people who are buying them these days don't want to have all those yards to maintain. They just want the size of the house. And that's sort of what you're seeing across the board. So a lot of developers are going through a cluster development where they're shrinking the lot sizes and the setback requirements are smaller. They can maximize their homes, give a lot more open space for the residents to kind of play and walk around and have little walking paths. So that's sort of the how we envision this kind of project with those kind of setbacks. So
The home that I lived in prior to moving to Emmitsburg had 8 feet between houses, so it was 16 feet
Total. Yeah.
total, and I wouldn't say that that was ridiculously narrow or anything like that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Please continue.
Yeah, so then this would be the last of the house types that we would be offering, which I don't think there's really thing else to add. But that kind of gives you a visual of what we anticipate and intend to build here. So we just, I mean, you guys have it in front of you, but this is just a zoomed in of the variance request exhibit showing the outline of the box, the buildable area with those different, if and when those different setbacks are approved. It does not show driveways on it, but that would be something that would be added as we would move forward.
So I have a question. Unit 1, 2, and 3, is that part of the current development, what has been built that exists, or is this part of your addition?
That's part of the addition. That's
So-
actually right past where the culvert is on Irishtown Road if you're going up towards the Brookfield community.
So
I-
I just want to understand because the neighborhood contains 12 units that were built back in the 90s, right? Are they still numbered 1 through 12, or is this renumbered to fit into your scheme?
No, so I actually wrote it down what the original plan had. Those units were actually, it was 13, 15, 16, and 17, and then 46 to 57 were the lot numbers that were
Okay,
originally built.
So you're talking
So
about the
they're-
ones that are in white.
Yes.
they're not in sequence.
Can I share this
beginning
with
at 1. All right, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, all this
Okay.
was very confusing to me.
Yeah. All right, so he's talking about 1 and 2
Right.
down there on that side. These are not next to each other. Okay.
When you met with the town, did they have the opportunity to see what you just put up in front of us?
Yes, I think we've been, as a group, the town and DRB Homes have been working together, to try to figure out how to get this project to work and move forward. So we're figuring out as we've gone through in our study period, what issues might arise, and we're working through getting them resolved. So it's been a lot of conversations back and forth.
And I
keep
can
things moving.
imagine my statement is if that information would have been available, a lot of the concerns that I had reading this wouldn't have come up. And I'm sure that's me just being pigheaded again and
You mean information about the parking situation?
about your credentials. This is not your first rodeo. You guys do this. You come into communities and you finish them.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, we're a pretty good size home builder. We build from Pennsylvania down to Florida. It was formerly Dan Ryan Builders. And then about 5 years ago, when the company was sold, the name was changed to DRB Homes. And we're headquartered in Rockville.
I'm easily impressed and you have a very interesting product. I wish I knew more about it before I presented myself here tonight.
Thank you. Yeah, I think we do. We offer a lot of different house types, a lot of different elevations, single families, townhomes, large and small. And I think the market that we're in, it forces you to do that. It's very competitive. So thank you, though. We appreciate it.
All right. Tucker, if you could finish your presentation.
Yeah, so this was just a copy of the zoning chart that shows the changes and the differences with the setbacks,
Mhm,
which is in the information you guys have already seen.
mhm.
And then we should have our last slide here. So this is a summary. DRB Homes is the contract buyer for the final phase of Emmett Ridge. As you all know, this community was originally approved in the early 90s. DRB's intention is to maintain the original configuration of the 65 lot subdivision while also providing the most up-to-date single family offerings. To ensure the success in making Emmitsburg a destination for new households, we must maintain the 48 lots shown on the current plan with setback variances requested by DRB. With your help, we can reach our common goal, increasing the number of households in Emmitsburg.
Okay. Thank you. Other questions? Other questions?
I think we should back up to the note that we got from the lawyer
Mhm.
about the assurances.
Oh, I've got a lot of paper here. Let me see. All right. Board may impose conditions that it deems necessary in the public interest and may also require guarantees to ensure such conditions are met. So did you have a particular condition in mind, or did that relate to Scott's concern about the parking?
I think there's, at this point, because of what we're trying to accomplish, there are probably a lot of questions that could pop up, and what we need is some basic assurance that what we're being told is what's going to happen. That's all. So, I don't really know how you're gonna work this on out. I'm not privy to those details. But the plan that you've got right now is a plan you're going to strictly adhere to?
Yes, sir.
Can I just interject? Nick, for them, said that DRB is the largest private builder in the country.
That's
He
true.
wanted to make that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't want to say too much.
Thank you for being so diligent in paying attention to the chat box.
We were saving that for later.
Oh, okay.
That's okay.
All right, so my understanding of this is that not all, were you saying that not all the lot sizes will, not all the homes will be the same in terms of percentage of the lot, or what are you saying? Are all these going to be
They would all fit within that building.
within that
envelope.
building?
We do offer, the widths would all be the same. We do offer some extensions that if it could work on the lot and the buyer wanted that, then that would be something that we would put on our lot matrix, which would be, the guidelines of what we can build on each lot. But the goal is that with these new setbacks, our product will fit inside all of those red boxes, basically.
I should probably know this, but I don't. So are you guys the developer and the builder?
Yes. Yeah. So in this instance, we would be purchasing the property and then developing it ourselves. Yeah.
So I think you have a good point about assurances. And what I am thinking is, as the developer, you don't know what you're going to run into in order to make sure in all cases that the utility stubs are going to be where they need to be. And just like there is a standard of care that all professionals apply in their area of expertise, some words that protected Emmitsburg, that ensured if you guys if you get surprised in your role as the developer to the point where you've got to do something in order to build the home that is different than what the original drawings might have required. Do you understand what I just said?
As far as like the architecture for the house?
No,
Or-
as far as, utility stubs and all of that.
Okay,
Everything that you have to deliver as a developer so that the lot is prepared and ready to build a home
mhm,
that was sold.
mhm,
Okay, if something were to come up and as the developer, you can't do that. And I don't know what the reason would be that you can. I know that building the 19 homes that I was referring to before, they didn't necessarily expect to have to use explosives to dig all the basements.
mhm.
But that was a change that they made after the fact. All I'm getting at is, isn't it what was being discussed? Some words that protect Emmitsburg, so that the developer and the builder have to negotiate with Emmitsburg in good faith, and comply with the standard of care, for your industry in the event that you run into something that you didn't expect.
Mhm.
Is that what you were talking about?
Yeah, more or less. And I think that's what the lawyer intimated. So, yeah.
Yeah, I will say one thing in my experience at DRB, I had in the past worked in production, and we had communities where we would buy finished lots from developers and then just contract to build the houses. We typically had more issues with those jobs than the ones that we self-develop.
And that's exactly what I'm referring to, because the developer was supposed to present a finished lot ready to build the house for Ryan, as a matter of fact.
Mhm.
And that didn't work so smoothly.
I think when you're doing both as the builder and developer, obviously you have a lot of skin in the game to make sure that things go well.
And that makes a lot of sense to me, except is that at the risk to the town of Emmitsburg? Because you get,
How so?
you're making all the decisions. You can make the decision as the developer, you can make the decision as the builder, and Emmitsburg has to provide, a water hookup or a sewer hookup in a way that perhaps they weren't thinking. Again, you're the expert. I'm not a builder.
I mean, we would be tying into what is already here in Emmitsburg to complete the community. We wouldn't, I mean, the plan is the plan. We would develop it and build it that way because that's how it's designed to be done. We can't, just being that we would be the developer and the builder, we can't change things to accommodate for utilities and things like that, if that helps answer the question.
We spend a lot of our time during our study period to understand where all of the utility lines stub into and what we might need to do to kind of grade the site to kind of make everything kind of work. So we spend like right now, we're still in a study period. So we're spending a ton of time to see if this project is even feasible. So this is one of these things where we come in here in front of you guys and kind of discuss what we have planned, because we've already done a lot of legwork behind the scenes to kind of see, does it work at all? And we kind of said, okay, it semi works, but we need these variances to make work. But amongst all that time that we've done all that, we wanted to know where all the utility lines go. And we may have reached out a few times in the last few months in terms of utility connections. Is there a capacity for new connections for water? Is there new capacity for new connections for sewer? So we're looking at all those things as we go through this study period to kind of see how it works. And obviously we want to do a community that makes Emmitsburg proud. So we're not going to come in here and bastardize the land and make it like not attractive. We want it to make it obviously something that looks nice and you're proud to see in your community. So as we go through this planning process, we want to work with the town, answer your questions, take your questions back, and do what we can to kind of alleviate any concerns that you may have as we develop the project. Because we are the end builder, we control the process throughout. So we're not going to basically push anyone around. We're looking to do this as a partnership with the town. What you guys want to see, you can ask us, we can do it. We can try to implement that throughout the plan, like the parking situation. We'll really investigate that to see, because that was a big concern of yours. And we want to kind of make sure that we can answer those questions. We actually bring it through an actual planning board and try to get it approved. So we'll spend a ton of time trying to figure all those things out and vet it out. But right now, we're really, really early in the process, trying to make sure it works. And the first thing that we need is to make sure the variances work. If that works, we'll take the next step to kind of figure out what's next for us. And then we'll bring it in front of you guys formally and present the plan.
Right,
And
and so he wouldn't be bringing it to us again because we're just the Board of Appeals. So all we're doing is just approving or not approving these variances so that they can move forward with their plans. The parking, the actual siting of the homes on the property is the Planning and Zoning Board. So that would be the proper place to bring up those kind of questions. I don't think it hurts to mention it to them now so they have it in their mind as something that you're concerned about. But really what we need to deal with here is the variances that you're requesting in terms of the lot size.
I hear what you're saying,
Mhm.
okay, and I'm not pushing back, okay? But I am going to point out to you that, you know, we have to determine whether or not there are exceptional circumstances exist to this property,
Mhm.
okay?
Right.
And one of the things it says is it
Are you on page
encumbered?
3? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
I was just trying
Is
to
it
figure out.
encumbered with easements, including a gas line easement and an area designated for stormwater management? Okay. What I think I heard you say is step one is, can we fit 45 homes into this parcel of land? And once that's determined, because you know whether or not the variance to the easement is going to be approved or not, then you start looking at the easements that you have to work around in order to get the utility stubs where they need to go.
Correct. Yeah, we've done some studies with, there's a gas line, I believe, that runs right through the property. And for a little while, I believe one of our land development guys couldn't figure out where it went. And we were reaching out to the gas company to figure out if they have a survey of where those pipelines go. I believe we have one in place now. We kind of know where it sits. We're not 100% sure that it's completely accurate just yet, but those are the kind of things that we read out and I guess we have another like 2 weeks to study the project to make sure it works. But these are the things that we'll be looking through. we don't have all the answers right now at this point. We're really kind of vetting it out as we kind of go through it. Like I said, the first step for us is to make sure that we can even fit our product onto this site. And then, as you said, Diane, we'll bring it up during the planning board side with all the questions. We'll probably submit a few things for conceptually to get some sort of the temperature of the room to see, does this work? Will we present it formally? So we want to make sure you guys are happy with what we're presenting. So once we get some of those comments back, we'll do the official submission with all of your questions. Hopefully we will have them answered in the first plan set that we present.
Are you comfortable with that?
I am, but again, I'm just a stupid engineer. I'm not an attorney.
We're
And I
glad we
don't know
have you on
how-
here.
I don't know how to undeniably make declarative statements that that this variance is not going to is not detrimental and is not contrary to the community or the public interest, okay? Because there are things that you guys don't know yet. And I think the point that you brought up is for the purpose of making sure that, you know, we're all adults. We don't have all the answers. We have to come to the table and negotiate in good faith.
Absolutely. We 100% agree as a company. We're not looking to fight with the towns to kind of push our agenda along. Like I said, this is kind of a push and pull, work together. Let's make this project successful and make Emmitsburg proud. So that's all we're looking to do. We're just kind of working through the whole entire project now and just trying to see if anything works. Because we like to kind of know before we spend a lot of money up front if this is something that the town wants to see. and we're not looking to do something the town doesn't want to see. We'll just walk away and say, okay, we're not going to do this project. But if you guys want to see something like this that works, we're willing to work with you guys and play ball and do whatever you guys want to see. We'll try to add it into our plans. And that's all we can ask for in terms of just a partnership, making this thing work. And we're not looking to push anyone around. We're looking to just partner up and make something like this work and be a success.
Diane, that answers all.
Okay, and there are certainly advantages that would come about as a result of finishing this project, which is the second entrance to, second exit from Northgate, which has been a huge burden on the town for not having that second entrance that was supposed to have been done like 40 years ago. So that's certainly an advantage. I've been talking to a lot of people lately about getting feedback for the comprehensive plan, and the lack of affordable housing is one of the issues that was not only mentioned in our 2015 plan, but is also being mentioned by people for our update to our 2025 plan. They're also concerned about preserving the environment. So some of this clustered development has some advantages in terms of that. So I'm looking at the advantage of the second entrance for Northgate. It's consistent with feedback from the town about allowing the affordable housing. Smaller lot sizes are going to be more affordable for people in town. I'm also looking at, since only 17 of the lots were finished, you've got these two stubs coming out here over off Irish Town Court. And it would be nice to see the project completed. This stormwater management facility has already been designated in that position, right? That's my understanding. It's listed on the,
As for stormwater management for the property, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that is right, yeah.
okay, but it doesn't exist right now.
Correct.
It
That's
would be required for
Yeah.
development of the remaining lots here. Okay, and in relationship to your concern, is there a gas line easement that's already listed on this drawing or not?
Yeah, there is one. I'm not sure exactly, Tucker, where it actually lies, but there is one that cuts across the property along, I guess it kind of goes sideways across Irish Town Road. We couldn't determine it, Tucker. You might have a little bit more information on that.
Yeah, so
Either use ours or yours, whichever one you want.
I'm gonna just kind of give it a rough back along, 1, 2, 3, 4, that side of the property. It
Okay.
crosses Irish Town Road. You can actually even see those yellow markers, the poles out there currently.
It crosses up by Brookfield.
I think it runs down Irish Town and then crosses again over into the Emmett Ridge subdivision.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. All right. So we have no public testimony in support or opposition to the application. So we can move on to board discussion. All right. I've already given some of my thoughts about this. No detriment to neighbors that we've heard of. Obviously, we didn't get any public comment about this yet.
No, and the obvious benefit is that it completes a project that's currently incomplete.
And gives
That has been
people
restored.
access,
Yeah.
and gives people access
Proves the
to
value of the
transportation.
community, yeah. It's a net benefit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, is there further discussion? You were mentioning an assurance that you would,
We talked about it, and I think they answered it. It's the unknown.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I just want, because I believe that's what the lawyer was suggesting, some basic assurance that we're not gonna get stuck holding the bag. If it turns out that they didn't find something or they didn't know something, that the proper assurances are provided so that the town is not gonna find themselves somehow or another penalized for that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But you have built on this size lot before successfully, from what I'm hearing.
Yes, just down the road, just down
Okay.
there in Thurmont.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have no concerns about your credentials. I only just wanna make sure that the town is protected, that's all.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. All right. So what we need to do is make sure if there's no further discussion that we're able to make findings of fact that will help us make our decision. So, exceptional circumstances. There is no other parcel of land in town that I know of anyway, that sits in this situation where it was partially developed with no code, no zoning code in mind. And then actually, so the rest of the property was already looked at, right? Because we've got this plat from 1995. All right. So there's no other property in town that is like this. So it is unique in terms of that property, in terms of that fact. It does have the easements that make the land available for development of the homes smaller. We've got the FEMA 100-year and 300-year floodplain, which, having worked for FEMA for years, you definitely don't want to encroach on those.
Mhm.
So that restricted the amount of the land that is available to you. So our findings of fact would need to be that exceptional circumstances exist, that the variance is necessary to the preservation of substantial property rights, and that the allowance of the variance is not detrimental and is not contrary to the public interest. Seeing as how we've gotten no public comments, we've got the completion of a road that we never had before, and we've got more access to everyone in Northgate, to Irishtown Road. And then also for these homes, they've got access to the exit off of Provincial Parkway to go out onto North Seaton Avenue,
And we have more housing.
and they have more housing available. So, and it's consistent with feedback from the town. All right. So, now I want to specify the findings of fact and actually lay those out, but is there more discussion about the benefits of granting the variance? And this is a question. They're asking for 5 variances in the lot sizes and the required setbacks. Is that considered 5 variances or 1 variance and 5 elements? I just didn't know how to phrase it.
Well, in their application, they referred to it as one whole variance, but if you want to do separate ones, that's totally fine. That's more work for you, but
Right, right. I think we'll just do one. One with the
And-
5 elements
They
underneath
are
those.
separate requirements, though.
yeah.
Side is different from front,
Front.
which is
Yeah.
different from back.
Mm-hmm. So hence, that was my question about whether or not, but if we make 5 variances, then do we need a separate finding of fact for
Yes.
each of the variances? Yeah.
Okay.
Which is why I would prefer to say a variance with 5 elements, including side yard setback, front yard setback, rear yard setback, minimum lot size. Is that
I-
all right with you?
Sure. Have you given any thought to how do you respond to whether or not this variance is granted in the spirit of the ordinance that it's changing? I'm not sure I understand. And so I'm on page 2 at the top of the page.
Of the lawyer's letter? Yeah. The spirit of the ordinance is observed and public safety and welfare secured.
I don't think it's an issue of public safety or welfare, but is it an issue? I mean, if you're changing the ordinance,
Well,
Well, it's. the
we're not
spirit.
changing the ordinance. The ordinance still stands. We're allowing a
A variance.
variation
Yes.
to the ordinance for this particular property, for this particular circumstance. So this is not going to apply to anything
I
else. If
agree.
it was going to apply to anything else, it would not be taken up by the Board of Appeals. It would be taken up by
Right.
the town commissioners. It would be a recommendation of the planning board to change the ordinance to modify the side yard and rear yard setbacks and minimum lot sizes for everybody. This,
so we don't have to worry about whether relief can be granted in the spirit of the ordinance.
You have a very narrow responsibility here.
right,
And certainly,
can-
we don't have to worry about that.
yeah. We just need to worry that we need to lay out findings of fact that this particular property can be granted this one variance with 5 elements. And that it is not harmful to any other projects in town or the rest of the community. And that it's in the benefit of the community by, number one, opening up the transportation route that we've had an issue with for 35, 40 years. And that we have the ability to have more affordable housing, which is something that our community needs and is asking for. So if those findings of facts are benefits that granting the variance would allow, and therefore not harm to the community.
So Diane, I suggest that we, in the interest of time, that we get that written down so that we can approve it.
Mhm.
That's what we're going to do.
It certainly seems like it's moving in that direction, so we just need to make sure that we phrase it adequately so that it will pass the muster in terms of findings of fact. I just want to make sure that all 3 of us are in basic agreement that this variance should be granted. Is there any, I mean, I know we haven't made the motion yet, but is there any disagreement with that basic overall finding?
No, none from me.
I don't have any other questions.
Okay, and I don't either. So before we make a motion, we need to write the findings of fact.
Right.
All right, so we can take the staff report, add our own comments to the staff report, and those then serve as our finding of fact. Let me. Jim, I know that you came in late and that you did not sign up for public comment. Can I just open the floor to you if you have anything you'd like to add? Okay, if you'd like to speak, you need to come up and, okay. Okay. I'd just like to make sure that everybody has the opportunity to speak if they'd like to. Okay, good. All right. Okay. So let's do the findings of fact. And we don't need all that whereas information, right? You guys can fill that in.
Yeah.
With the name of the applicant, the fact that it was duly advertised and all that other stuff. All right, so let's hear a motion to approve the request for variance to 17.32.070 with the 5 elements as
Motion to
outlined in the
approve.
table. Wayne Slaughter has made the motion to approve. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Scott has seconded the motion. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. The motion carries. Now, let me write out the findings of fact. All right. Do we need to formally conclude the meeting while we write out these findings of fact, or does that need to be in the public minutes?
So your facts, they need to be in the public minutes for
Okay.
record. So if you could, once you write it down, read it out loud for the record and then conclude.
And then we can conclude the meeting. All right. I just hate to keep anybody that's got to get, well, they don't have to stay if they don't want to, right? All right. Due to the unusual circumstances, you guys are welcome to jump in if you want.
Don't wanna interrupt your train of thought, just carry on.
Circumstances of the property at 103, whatever it is. Including limited land availability, I can type a lot faster than I can write. Due to Gilla, I'm gonna make notes on this and read it out loud, but I may have to work with you to make sure you can understand my notes. FEMA floodplain, the undeveloped stormwater management, and the easement. For the gas line and required open space. It's my understanding that it will require certain amounts of open space. Okay. Leslie is always good at this. I can steal any of her language.
Of course. Can you just reference it?
Can I just reference it?
Is that a yes? That's a yes.
All right. This is what I was looking at.
Mhm.
Standard is met or simply repeating the standard. But she didn't do that. She gave us good English. All right. So findings of fact include that due to the unusual circumstances of the property, including encumberments on easements for a gas line and an area designated for stormwater management. In addition, a stream buffer exists on the property. So what we're doing is referring to the language in Leslie's point number 1 on the 3rd page of her memo. The variance is necessary to the preservation of substantial property rights. Would you need me to read that out loud? A grant of the variance is requested will allow the property to enjoy the same rights as those of other properties in the same zoning district, in this case, R2. This property was initially designed to accommodate single-family homes on smaller lots. Only 17 homes were built before the project was left incomplete for decades. Because of the overall design of the project as a whole is unlikely, absolutely almost impossible to be repeated elsewhere because this was a piecemeal development. Further, this property cannot be developed to its full potential and density in the absence of a variance because it is not economically feasible. Unless the variance is granted, the property within the zone could not be developed consistent with the original subdivision plan because it is subject to the restrictions unique to this property, including the stream buffer and
Well stated.
the others. She's good, isn't she? The allowance of the variance is not detrimental and is not contrary to the public interest. Allowance of the variance furthers the public interest in different ways. First, as we said, the grant of a variance in this situation promotes a more environmentally sound use of land and allows for preservation of trees and natural habitats upon the property, as well as reduction in the amount of impervious surfaces on the property. Second, the grant of a variance promotes the efficient use of land under the circumstances affecting this particular parcel. This variance will permit completion of a road system within the development, which provides for greater traffic circulation, and I may add safety for the residents in Northgate. The design and size of the proposed lots, including the variance for the setbacks, is consistent with those established in the original development and are consistent with the area already built. In addition, the front yard reduction will not adversely affect the operation of traffic on adjacent streets and will allow homeowners to park their cars in their driveways. That was the one where I saw that, without impairing public rights of way. Third, the public interest is also advanced by the completion of a long unfinished project, allows for the construction of homes that can be sold at a lower price point and will further the ability of individuals to live where they work. Houses on smaller lots are more affordable than those otherwise available in the R1 zone at a significantly higher cost. The project is likewise consistent with the current R2 zoning, and in fact, because of the impediments existing upon the property, it furthers the intent of the zoning code by allowing for its development consistent with the R2 zone. The Board of Appeals finds that the requirements for grant of a variance have been met. All right.
Very good.
The Board of Appeals meeting for June 11th is concluded. Thank you.